What is going on, YouTube? This is Los Angeles Prepper, and I think we're actually going to boosh. I'm gonna face my camera here so I can see what the heck is going on, and we'll talk about the Middle East real quick. There we go. So what's going on in the Middle East? Apparently kind of some stuff. No joke, you know. So a few things. The big arrests, the multiple arrests that happened recently with the Saudi king purging some of the government, that's something that's been going on. But also some other more violent actions. Saudi Arabia intercepts a ballistic missile over the capital. I'm going to read that again. Saudi Arabia intercepts ballistic missile over capital. That's insane. That's completely insane. And this was on the 4th. I don't know if I saw this in the news or I was busy doing other stuff, but I can't believe I sort of missed this. It says Yemenis rebels targeted an airport in Saudi Arabia's capital with a ballistic missile, but it was intercepted over Riyadh. Yemen's defense ministry said the missile attack shook the Saudi capital and the operation was successful. So I guess the Yemenis and the Saudis are at war. If they weren't previously, they are now. Yemenis war. Let me see if I can view my stream. I don't know if I have a chat I can interact with. Oh no, why am I sideways? Rotate device, yeah, I know, but why do you have to... Why is it forcing... Son of a bitch. What's up, guys? I'm working on some camera issues here. You're gonna have to... You'll have to forgive me. For some reason, the camera wanted to rotate. Man, this is some shaky business. Oh, freaking hell. Finish. Let's finish. Okay. I think it's not too crooked. Strangely enough, it doesn't look crooked. I'm sort of interesting. But, so we're talking about the Middle East. We're talking about Saudi Arabia intercepting a ballistic missile over their airport. Excuse me, from Yemen. From who in Yemen? You know, it's interesting that it says Yemeni rebels, and then later it's talking about Yemen's defense ministry. So how is the defense ministry, which sounds like an official government position, like, called the operation a success? So is the defense ministry working with the rebels, or are we calling the Ministry of Defense the leader of the rebel group? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, just weird. What else has been going on? Saudi, United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait urge citizens to leave Lebanon. Interesting. Very interesting. It's one thing. We have a lot of travel warnings with different states. You can go to the Secretary of State website. It's on a few different websites. I think the Department of State is in charge of that, but you might be able to find the info on like DHS or other websites. But at any rate, it's one thing to have a travel warning against a country, but it's a completely different thing to just say, you need to leave that country now. That's kind of crazy. Leave as soon as possible. Craziness. Hours later, Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates also urged its nationals to leave Lebanon immediately. Wow. Sudden resignation of Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri. Yeah, so I've been watching this. If you guys want to check out some interesting stuff, check out RT.com. It's a White House News press briefing. And man, they are hammering this spokesperson for the Department of State. Heather something, I think her name is. God, this is so sketchy. My camera is so heavy, I can't get it to, like, not want to fall over. I promise I'll work on this for the next video. I hate adjusting the camera on camera, obviously. But let's take a listen in real quick.
Many secretaries of state. The issue of Israeli-Palestinian peace. Lots of secretaries, lots of administrations have wanted to get this done and have not been able to do so. I know this president is reinvigorated by the idea.
Interesting. I don't want to play too much audio. I don't want YouTube to flag me, but Heather Nauert. I was looking her up actually. Journalist. Working with working with the Department of State. Yeah, Department of State. Former co-host of Fox and Friends. Okay, Fox and Friends first. Well, I don't really have time to watch TV and stuff like that, so. Very interesting. Yeah, so she's definitely used to being on camera and taking time. I mean, the questions that she's getting about, like, the Prime Minister, they were asking her about the Prime Minister of Lebanon, saying, is he being held? Is he being detained? And she didn't want to answer that, It's part of her job. She can only disclose so much, but, God, what is going on in Lebanon? So yeah, what is going on in Lebanon? In his November 4th resignation, Hariri implicitly blamed Iran and its Lebanese ally Hezbollah for his decision. In his speech, he said that he suspected there were plans to target his life. They were trying to Kennedy him. His father, who also was prime minister, was killed in a bomb attack in 2005. That's terrible. So I suppose he has reason to believe that prime ministers' lives can be in jeopardy. His unexpected move also stoked fears of an escalation in the regional divide between Iran and the Gulf states, primarily Saudi Arabia, with Lebanon on the front lines. Okay, so because there's a change in leadership in Lebanon, and it was kind of an unexpected change of leadership, they're worried that the new power, all the countries in the region are worried that the new government might do who knows what, you know? And to be honest, although it's strange, I mean, Saudi Arabia does have a little bit of insulation from Lebanon with Jordan and Syria on the way, but what's really interesting is that with Syria being destabilized, I mean, it's not hard to tell that with where Lebanon is geographically located, that unless Lebanon expands down into Israel, they're essentially going to be going into Syria first. So, and Syria being destabilized to some extent, or at least under pressure from different groups, since it's, you know, the war in Syria has been going on for several years. Gonna be an important area to keep an eye on, because, you know, is it going to affect us tomorrow? You know, not necessarily, but the point is, it's just important. You know, I don't want to say like we're just going to watch, you know, carnage unfold and learn from their mistakes or something like that, but, you know, history, a lot of people talk about learning from history, but you can also learn from the present. You know, I'm a big believer in kind of keeping an eye on what's going on in the present, because you don't have to fantasize about you know, what's it going to be like if a bunch of people are hungry. You just need to look at Venezuela. You don't have to wonder about what inflation or hyperinflation, you know, are going to do to really mess up an economy, because you can look at Argentina and Venezuela and different countries through the years. You definitely don't need to go back in history beyond yesterday to see war-torn areas like you know, like Syria, and even current wars. You know, we're at war with 6 countries. Other countries have military action going on. I think I was talking about Donbass in Ukraine recently. You know, Korea, of course, is... you know, Korea has been an interesting country for a long time, but, you know, you start launching missiles, people pay attention to you. You know, you just can't ignore somebody launching a big-ass missile. It takes a bit of engineering. Now, granted, if all their missiles were just, you know, going random places and duds and, you know, flying for 10 minutes and then falling into the ocean, that would be one thing. But when you launch a missile that ostensibly looks like it could go a certain amount of range, then even if it's not nuclear, that's still a capability to do some damage. So, you know, you launch some missiles, just like Yemen. You know, whatever happens as a result, and who knows what's going to happen as a result of this missile being launched at the Saudi Arabian capital, I guarantee you one thing, it will not go without a response. Even if Saudi Arabia doesn't do anything militarily, you know, you're poking the bear. Yemen is poking the bear on this one, especially because of who Saudi Arabia's friends are. You know, it's one thing for Yemen to go after Saudi Arabia by themselves, but considering America and Saudi Arabia have been pretty overt allies for several decades anyways, it's or at least since well, you know, the really interesting thing about Saddam is that we used to be friends with Saddam, and then we weren't friends with Saddam, and then, you know, something unfortunate happened. Oh my gosh, I gotta read, hold on. Yeah, Lebanon is feeling the heat gas mask. Syria still thinks it owns Lebanon. I wonder, did Syria used to own all of Lebanon? You know, I haven't, gosh, you make me look up Lebanon history, and I don't know. God, you know, when you look back at the Syrian occupation, man, Lebanon was in turmoil for a long time. Oh, thanks, Diane. Check out my videos. I've got, you know, some videos are kind of prepping related. Some videos are sort of just fun, like, you know, what did I buy at the 99-cent store, or, you know, how I do my laundry. I'm going to be getting into the field a little bit more in the future. You're going to see some actual real camping stuff. Might even try to get into the snow. I think that would be super fun to get into the snow. It does snow sort of at the upper elevations in the mountains up out the window there. So, you know, because it's nice giving editorials and talking about opinions and stuff like that, but you know, sometimes you just got to get out there. You got to get out there and chop some wood and build a fire, and you know, you got to get out. Got to get out in the wilderness. And I mean, I'm pretty lucky. A lot of people think LA is just Hollywood and freeways and highways, but in fact, I can sort of show you guys. Let me. But out there, those mountains, those are big giant ass Los Angeles National Forest mountains. So I can, God, I've got to work on that. So I can get out there and you know, kind of explore the mountains as much as I desire to. But I'm talking about the Middle East right now, talking about Lebanon. If you haven't heard, Lebanon's prime minister was sort of pushed out of power. Who knows how he was pushed out or for what reasons. He gave some reasons in his speech. How exactly or who exactly pressured him is important, but the bigger thing is just that there's going to be a big shift in power. And you know, you could sort of label it a coup, so to speak, but you know, I gotta admit, like, the people that pressured him, I like that they pressure. I mean, look, I don't mean to joke about it. This is going to be, you know, it's quite possible things are going to get a little bit crazy in Lebanon, and that's not something to joke and laugh about. But you got to admire the fact that if they had enough power to force him out, that they could have just said, they literally could have walked into his office and just said, "Get out, leave. You're done. You're gone. That's my chair now." But they said, "Look, you're going to resign. We're going to try to, you know, we're going to try to pretend like you just wanted to resign." Even though he said in his resignation speech, like, these guys made me resign. So, I mean, if you're going to force someone to resign, you got to tell them, like, don't say it was us. You know, I don't know. Kind of weird. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Iran. Well, Iran is poking the bear, but Iran's like a wolf. You know, Iran's not like a chipmunk poking the bear. So they have, you know, they have some power. They have some allies. Yeah, Iran throws their weight around a little bit, but you know, that's what countries do that have some weight. They throw it around a little bit. Ah, Pomona. Yeah, Pomona's down the street from me. Pro-Iran or pro-Israel, and you know, oh, the great political, you know, the great diametric, you know, I want to say dipolar, but I think diametric, that's not the right word, diametric. Completely opposed. Okay, maybe it is diametric. Pro-Iran, pro-Israel. It's America. I love America, and I love a lot about America, but one of the things I don't love about America is that we have a history of messing with other people's governments all the time. All the time. I mean, they don't, they sort of try to hide it when it's going on right now, but you can read on Wikipedia about, government coups in this country and that country and overthrowing this leader and supporting these rebels. It's not conspiracy theory stuff. It's all like, that's a good question. I don't know if we have a military base in Lebanon, or if troops are deployed for that matter. Well, isn't this fascinating? November 2nd, 2007. No, sorry, that's way old. Google, why are you giving me on the front page stuff from 10 years ago? I swear. Sometimes the internet just doesn't seem like it makes sense. We sold them 2 A-29 light attack aircraft on October 31st. Funny day to sell somebody planes. I'm trying to find some stuff about U.S. troops in Lebanon, and I can't. November 8th? Was this yet? U.S. transfers $40 million in military funding for the Lebanon border. To who? What? How? Okay, so I don't understand. How did they just transfer control of the country from one group to another, and then 4 days later we send them $40 million? That doesn't make sense. That's crazy talk. I can't. That just seems to like weird. That's just really weird. Border Operation Reimbursement Program. Ted Cruz. Richard also touched on continued, and by the way, I'm on the dailystar.com, this article about U.S. transfers $40 million in military funding to the Lebanon border. Richard also touched on continued support for the Army, a pressing question since the resignation of Prime Minister Saad Hariri over the weekend. In the wake of the news, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz said in a statement earlier in the week that America now should cut assistance to Lebanon over Hezbollah's role in the country. God, doesn't it make you feel funny when a U.S. Senator says something meaningful that you might like them to say? I can't say I'm a big follower of like what Ted Cruz has been up to as of late or in general. But that's not really the point, Even if there's a senator that I don't like, they can still do something that I think is beneficial to the country, and I can still appreciate that. I think that's sort of like a big difference between like certain political groups. I think some political groups are sort of more based on like ideas and beliefs, and other ones are kind of based on, if you're not with us, then you're against us and you have to be like stamped out of existence or something like that. I don't know. But Diane, when do you think shit hit the fan will happen? So, America's pretty strong. America kind of has... Look, we got some problems in America, obviously. We have a lot of challenges in America. We have economic challenges, security challenges, growth challenges, land challenges. Not having land, government just owns all the land. We got plenty of land, we just don't own it. Can't buy it, can't develop it. You know, it's all federally... look at how much of the West Coast is owned, you know, so... But America is a very resilient country, and it has a lot of redundancies. So it would take, you know, it would take a lot, and I think for something long term. But you know, as far as like, you know, why I prep or why I think people should prep, it's really not. It's not just for like the worst thing, you know, possible that could ever happen. I mean, you prep to have the power out for a couple days. You prep to, you know, be snowed in for a week. You prep to, you know, have a big earthquake and schools shut down and, you know, maybe the water, even if it's just the water. Like imagine the power's on, you still have internet, but you don't have water. I mean, can you imagine like dying of thirst while you're browsing the internet? Isn't that a weird concept? But, you know, it really could happen. It could take them weeks to turn back the water, but maybe the electricity and the internet's on, but the water had issues or something. Who knows? You know, if there's a big crack, I think I was posting on Reddit a while ago about if there's a big crack in the California aqueduct, how long it would take to repair. And some engineers said, you know, I don't know, a few weeks. So, and we're really fortunate that like, even if LA has a really crappy issue, you know, Vegas is right there, San Diego's right there, San Francisco's right up here. We're not in the middle of nowhere. You know, when Houston had trouble, people were able to just jump on the freeway and drive their boats and their trucks over to Houston. It wasn't like, you know, Puerto Rico is really unfortunate because being an island, it was separated, you know, so hugely geographically from everything else. And you only have so many boats and so many helicopters and so many planes. So, you know, when do I think shit hits the fan's going to happen? I can say this, at least for the U.S. Russia gets pissed, NATO... Yeah, you know, the thing is, though, Russia and America are frenemies right now, you know? Like, and the really funny part, I think, is that Russia, like, sort of country hick Russians and country hick Americans, I feel like have a lot in common, you know? They're very independent. They're very nationalistic. They're proud. They want to be strong. They want to be outdoorsmen and hunt and, you know, go kill bears and hunt wolves and ride dirt bikes and weld and just be like rough and tough men, you know, drive crazy vehicles. If you compare like crazy stuff that people do in Russia and crazy stuff that people do like with 4x4s or something, you're going to see the similarities. So I don't see, you know, regardless of what the leaders are doing, even if the next Putin and the next Trump, you know, were trying to, you know, really push on each other, I don't feel like the American people would really allow it. Kind of like Syria. I think if Trump said tomorrow, you know, we have to bomb Russia, I think America would say, what are you talking about, Trump? Like, what are you talking about, man? You know, Russia's not perfect. Russia has so much land. Russia's like Canada. I mean, they have a shortage of manpower and woman power to just like be as productive as they could be. They don't have the most diversified economy. They definitely have a lot of natural resources, you know, minerals and forestry and some amount of oil. They're pushing in the technology sector as of the last, you know, kind of decade or so. But the thing about Russia is like, if Russia had the population of India or China, Russia would be the next India or China. They have so much land, but they just don't have... What is the population of Russia right now? It's not... 144 million. Okay, so it's half the population of America, but it's an enormous freaking country. I want to go to Russia someday. I gotta admit, I want to go like just buy a dirt bike and just go ride around Russia. Learn some Russian. I know like how to say 10 things in Russian right now, but I would kind of like to learn, a little bit more. I think it would be amazing. Right? It's just such an enormous, like you talk wilderness. In my opinion, if you want to go like to the wilderness, it's pretty much like Canada, Russia, and maybe some parts in South America, and probably some parts in Africa too. But if you're really trying to get into crazy wilderness area. Solar flare, yeah, so the sun's been doing crazy shit as of late. I think I read some article about I don't know, some sun hurricane or something, I don't know, sun tornado. Big earthquake, yeah, I'm on a soft story too. If you don't know what a soft story is, Google soft story. It's when you have like a big building on sort of little shitty like posts and little walls and stuff. So this building is, look, I'm not a civil engineer, but this building has issues, and I don't know. I don't want to live here forever. Let's just say that. It's a decent apartment, but I don't want to live here forever. When did I first get into prepping? Good question. So before I got into prepping, I kind of was watching, in 2011, I kind of got into, I had some free time, and I don't know, I get into a bunch of videos about the economy and about fiat currency and money creation, because I think there was a lot of quantitative easing going on, and I was just like, fuck, I'm going to be broke if they keep printing money and inflation goes up 100%. And it just cracks me up when people talk about like, oh, inflation's not a problem and inflation doesn't exist and inflation is required for growth. But the idea that you could buy a soda for like 5 cents, 100 years ago, and now it costs, $1, $2. That's just crazy to me. It's just crazy. I'm sure some, 1%, 2%, 3% of inflation can help in a capitalistic economy, especially with the way that our economy is run off debt and, debt of debt of debt and a loan on a loan on a loan, this whole fractional reserve baloney. But we have a lot more than 3% inflation, prices go up like crazy. It's funny. I don't want to get into like economics right now, but so I started sort of in like 2011, 2012, getting more into economic videos. And then, I don't know, Obama, things are just kind of crazy. I didn't have a lot of certainty in the future of the country. And then things kind of stabilized out, and they kind of stabilized out despite, our last POTUS's efforts to just do all sorts of interesting stuff. So then I kind of like got away from that. And then in San Diego a couple years ago, I don't know what specifically it was. I've had a couple power outages at my last place, but I don't know. It was like 3-4 years ago. It's kind of hard to explain. I've been into the outdoors for a really long time. I've done a whole Boy Scout thing, a little bit of familiarity with firearms. Don't do a lot of camping. Recently do a little bit of hiking here and there. But the prepping to me is sort of like the result of my belief system on whether or not current Western civilization is sustainable in its modern form. So it's sort of like something that I do as part of, so that question for me, like, when did you start prepping? Yeah, guns have always been fun. I haven't owned guns for a really long time before recently. Hasn't like really been a priority, kind of always been on the back burner. But so for me, the last few years, just kind of started thinking more Max Kaiser. It was all Max Kaiser's fault. If you haven't watched Max Kaiser, you got to Google Max Kaiser right now. I'm going to write it. In fact, I'll be even a little less lazy and I'll provide you a link. I know that takes a lot of effort on my part, but Max Kaiser is a former Wall Street guy, former like hedge fund venture capitalist. You know, moving and playing with large amounts of money. He has had a show on RT called the Kaiser Report for, I don't know. He's done 1,147 episodes. Okay, how many weeks is that? The dude. Oh, let me get this voice here.
Hey Prince.
He's got the greatest voice too.
He dissed Bitcoin, and now he had all his wealth confiscated, and he's sleeping on an Airbnb in some Ritz hotel in the middle of Riyadh.
Oh, I love Max. Anytime you're having a... Oh, my hair looks ridiculous. Sorry. Anytime you're having a rough day, just watch some Max Kaiser. He's always cracking me up. Yes, the most epic rants. Oh my gosh. I mean, him and Alex Jones together should just like... They just need to give, like, they both have money and they both have drive. If they were both on a TV show and there was just like Folix, Alex Jones and Max Kaiser around and just watch them like shake up the global system, it would be the greatest. It would be the greatest. I don't know how long they could stand each other, but I think Max sort of gets like, they have talked a couple times, I think, and Max sort of like tires a little bit of Alex Jones's like constant like conspiracy push and Vegas was at this and all that stuff. So and Alex definitely has thoughts and is sort of aware of like what's going on with the economy and things like that, but Max is sort of like economically focused and Alex is sort of, they have kind of different focuses, but they're both really interesting people. Yeah, I'm playing Max. But I do. So the thing about Max Kaiser is it wasn't just like the economic porn. You watch enough of that, you do start to think like crazy stuff's going to happen. But he is a smart guy, and he really does touch on a lot of important things that are going on. So, he's talking about bond markets or trillions in derivatives, and you just stop and think like, what is $1 trillion in derivatives? $1 trillion in gambling? It's like the entire global economy walked into Vegas and said, I put $1 trillion on red. Like, fuck, that would be a really crappy, bet or something. Or I put $1 trillion on number 1 on the roulette wheel, or number 2 or whatever, like a 1 in 38 chance or something. That's kind of like what the derivative market is. Everyone's betting on everyone else, and it's there. Sure, some of it is tied to like performance and production. You can bet on America being around tomorrow. Is it going to be around in 100,000 years? Who knows? But anyways, kind of get off track on this economic thing. Alex can outrant Max. Oh, for sure he can. They sort of rant in like, Alex will, Alex is like, grrr, like his blood boils and his veins start popping out in his head, and he starts yelling like he's angry, like the rage just like comes out. He has like rage against the machine, literally. Max is a little more, Max is sort of like, and God damn it, why is this? And why is this? And what the hell is wrong with these people? And not sort of, a little less like intense. He's not quite as intense as Alex, but they're both. Yeah, I know, the market crashes, bank bailouts, man. Max talked a lot about the bank bailouts and all that stuff, and I was working in real estate kind of like as some of that stuff was going on. Crazy big economic stuff, but yeah, I got way off topic from Saudi Arabia, but man, Lebanon. So Yemeni, the whole Middle East is just getting hot right now. Yemen has launched missiles against Saudi Arabia. Lebanon has a new leader, and I guess we're still cool with him. Gave him $40 million. Like, maybe that money was on its way anyways, but I mean, other countries are telling their citizens, get out of this country, and we're just giving him 40 million bucks. And look, border security is important, but I just don't know that we need to pay for it. How much of the US-Mexico border could you build with 40 million bucks? That's the question you need to ask yourself, you know? And look, 40 million bucks could be going to a lot of things, not just the border versus Mexico. This is the reason, like, I really don't like money going overseas. I'm all about teaching other people to fish. I don't think we need to buy fish for other people. I really don't. There are about 30,000. There are more than 30,000 homeless people in LA. How many houses? How many dormitories? How many how many areas could you build to house a few thousand people? Could you house something? Could you build something to house like 5,000 people for 40 million bucks? Maybe, I don't know. 40 million bucks to build their wall. Well, we have a wall we're trying to pay for right now. Why are we giving money away? Why are we giving money to Lebanon? Did anyone vote for a senator or a representative that said they wanted to give $40 million to Lebanon? I didn't. I swear I would love a candidate that just said, I want a smaller government, the Constitution works great, and I'm going to invest my time and energy and your tax dollars in trying to make America a better country. If that's all he said, I would vote for him over and over and over again, even if he wasn't perfect. But look, what happens to the third party, what happened with Bernie Sanders and Ron Paul specifically really needs to be an example to Americans of how politics works. Your vote matters, but it takes more than a vote. It's going to take more than votes. I'm not talking about like a revolution and take up arms or anything crazy. I'm just saying it's going to take more than just voting. It's going to take more political action than that to change this country. I don't think there's any easy solution, but they just blacklisted the third party. All of them, from the little guys to the more popular guys like Ron Paul. This whole thing with Bernie Sanders and the DNC recently, and who's that? Pauline or something talking about DNC, former DNC chair. Schultz, no. Donna Brazile, yeah. About how it was rigged against Bernie. And look, every political election, probably excluding Ross Perot, although they were hating on Perot too, he probably got the most, in recent years, Perot, like recent decades, I suppose, I think Perot did sort of, it would be interesting to compare like how much press Perot got versus how much press Ron Paul got, or how much press Bernie Sanders got versus Ross Perot. If any of you guys are too young for Ross Perot, look him up. He had big ears like this, and he was from Texas, and he always talked about pie charts. This is a 10% of crime. He was the greatest. I loved him. He was. I thought he was great. But yeah, Ron Paul did try, and man, he had a lot of support. Ron Paul's a great guy. He's a doctor. He's a Vietnam vet. He's a gun supporter. I'm not 100% libertarian, but I do support, some of my conservative beliefs some of conservative beliefs in general align closely with libertarian beliefs. And that's kind of the whole problem with, this whole party bullshit is that what if there was a candidate that was just like pro-gun, pro-constitution, pro-investing in the country, pro-low taxes, pro-small government, Do you care what party he is? Do you care if he's blue or red? Well, because of gendering and the Electoral College, yeah, we sort of do end up caring if he's blue or red. But ultimately, when it comes down to the people, if Trump is doing good things for this country, does it really matter if he's a Democrat or a Republican? You know, only in the sense that Democrats want to play nice with Democrats and Republicans want to play nice with Republicans. But ultimately, if he's doing things to make this country great, you have, at least in my opinion, you need to kind of look at the results, you know, a lot more than just, this is what I call myself. I don't care what you call yourself. I care what you do, you know, and, you know, Trump's been doing a lot of stuff recently. Oh, I know. I tell you, gonna make it easier for me to find a job, Gas Mask. I'm not gonna lie. I live in California, and even if I don't work in defense, all the other engineering jobs that are available in defense will help soak up all the other engineering students that are going to be getting their degrees in the next year. So California, let me tell you a secret about California. California has a few big industries. We have the tech industry, we have the entertainment industry, we have agriculture, we have defense, we have a lot of shipping, obviously, because of the ports. There's some other industries, but those are some of the big ones. And you're going to see a lot of Californians with, with like peace signs on their vehicles and, driving Priuses and saving the environment. There are there are millions and billions of dollars being made in this state from making weapons. Making planes, making bombs, making guidance, parts of planes and bombs and missiles, and on and on and on. And I'm not, I'm not going to go too much into like my feeling on foreign policy, other than to say that I think we can have a strong country and keep our meddling to a minimum. If we need to defend ourselves or defend our friends, that's one thing, but I'm not the biggest supporter in continual meddling, so 8 billion in weapons to South Korea, good for the economy, right? I mean, if you're a true capitalist, profit is all you care about. I mean, if you were a true capitalist, you would sell weapons to North Korea and you would say, you better not use them against us. And we have sold weapons to countries that aren't really our best friends. We have sold a lot of weapons. I know, department. Why do you think I'm planning on homeschooling my kids, Acer? Swear to God. I swear. I don't care if I have 5 kids. I don't want to have kids until I own my land, cash, till I own my house, free and clear. Look, property taxes is one thing. I don't know if I'm ever going to live in a state without property taxes, but... and I know that homeschooling my kids is going to, kind of be challenging, especially time-wise, but... this is the way I look at it. You only, and who knows if I'll change my opinion on this in the future, but you only have one, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's cool. Honestly, Oklahoma, some of the states in the Midwest, like Wisconsin, I don't know about Wisconsin, but Oklahoma, I know I've been reading stuff about, they are just pushing like buku for the states. It's really interesting right now. So at these difficult economic times, you're seeing a lot of competition between the states. And I think I gotta get some water real quick. I'm dying. I've been going for like a while. So education, schools, budgets, homeschooling, resources. All right. Yeah, homeschooling is going to take a lot of time and energy, but I went to public schools my whole life. I went to really good public schools. The problem with really good public schools is these days in California, you have to buy a $750,000 house. Not in all places. And I'm not going to say if you go, move to, I don't know, Fresno or Modesto or Stockton, that you can't find a decent school somewhere around there. But public schools are becoming a war zone, and people with money put their kids in private schools. So if you live in a rich neighborhood, you probably have a pretty decent public school. If you live in a mediocre neighborhood, you know, you're probably doing all right. If you live in a poor neighborhood, you might bitch, moan, and complain about it, but you know, it can be really tough to have a major impact on the quality of education your kid gets in the short term. You might be able to make changes so that in 3-4 years things get better, but you know, if your kid goes to like a high school and you start getting involved, maybe stuff will start getting better by his like junior, senior year. But you know, so I went to a really good public school, so I don't say that I want to homeschool my kids lightly. I just don't think public school really utilizes their time really well. I think that, you know, generally they do. Look, I get the overall idea of educating your children. Of course, I agree with that. Giving your children a chance to socialize with other kids, of course, makes a lot of sense. But the sort of the structure and the nature of the material that the kids are getting taught, I don't really, you know, a lot of it is sort of archaic and like not really stimulating. You know, like when I was doing history in like 5th and 6th grade, you know, just boring old textbooks that really didn't like inspire any sort of passion for the material. So, you know, I don't know. I didn't feel like overall my entire K through 12 experience left me very, you know, maybe as rich as it could have. My life was definitely enriched. I mean, I did learn a lot in public school. I sort of struggled in college a little bit, but yeah, we're all bullied. I was bullied in school, man. Only a couple times though. I kind of started getting like tall and a little bit bigger, but yeah, nothing like. I mean, a couple like minor incidents that sort of could have gotten more serious, but didn't get more serious. You know, like for example, one time a kid pushed me up against like a corridor. Now that in and of itself like isn't that big of a deal. I think maybe I hit my head on the back or something, so it hurt a little bit. But if he had decided to like push me onto the ground and I hit my head falling on the ground, or I broke my wrist or something, like that would have been, you know, kind of a thing. In fact, in 7th grade, one of our we're on recess one day, and one of the bigger kids pushed one of the littler kids, and he was really kind of a scrawny kid, backwards, and he put both of his arms behind him, and he got a freaking double fracture, and his wrist was all like freaking crooked, like it went like up and then over and then up. Like it wasn't compound, the skin wasn't broken, but the fracture line was like that. It was all jacked up. And I was actually kind of like a Cub Scout or whatever at the time, and I really didn't think that the PE teacher walked him with his fucking broken ass wrist, you know, like trying to hold his wrist all the way to the office. And I was like, why don't you just like have him sit down? Are you really going to risk him like further, you know, I don't know. Would you walk someone at least like 500 or 600 yards from the playground where we were all the way to the office? At least 400 yards. Would you walk a kid 400 yards with a wrist that looked like it was all, you know, all broken? The tibia and the radius both broken. Or sorry, radius and the ulna both broken. You know, I would. So, but yeah, you know, public schools are all right, but I just feel like, you know, for a little bit less time, I could give my kid a lot richer experience. And just, I don't know, just, I want them to have like a better life. Honestly, this is why it's not, I don't want to homeschool my kids so much because, yeah, I'm sure the gangs are worse now maybe than they used to be. I don't know. Torrance. I don't want to homeschool my kids so much because I think that finding a good public school is going to be awful, but, yeah, I know, walk it off, right? It's one thing to walk it off. It's another thing when you have a student that's like a year and a half older than you and like 50 pounds older than you, choking you like Homer Simpson or something, and you're in fear for your life and you don't have any tactical training. Yeah, walk it off is definitely something that has happened before. Oh, dude. LA. The Asian Americans love California. I don't know what it is. You know, it's probably because we should sort of take it as like a, what do you call it? As flattery, because traditionally, different Asian cultures, especially Chinese culture, very sort of concerned with like financial security and making good investments. So the fact that there's a lot of Asian investment on the West Coast and California and such really says that they are pretty big believers in the market. For several years after the crash, millions and billions of dollars of foreign money coming in to buy American real estate. I mean, there's good jobs over here. You know, there's good jobs, good life. China's certainly doing amazing things now too. You know, amazing stuff. But yeah, probably gonna homeschool my kids, and we do spend too much on the military Acer. But you know, I think interestingly, I'm not. I mean, I know that number's gonna go up, like as far as inflation and stuff like that. But you know, I wonder. We've been using drones for, I don't know, probably at least a decade by now, and I wonder if we're using, you know, more planes with pilots, or if drones are helping us save money. I know we're kind of short on pilots. That's part of the whole like executive order about the Air Force being able to recall retired people and all that stuff. But I wonder if drones have been saving us money. I don't know if they will ultimately, or if we'll just, you know, if you know, 10 million troops cost 800 billion, but 10 million robots only cost 600 billion, we'll probably spend the other 200 billion and buy more robots anyway. So no matter what it costs, the military is probably not going to want to voluntarily reduce their budget. Because who wants to voluntarily like get fired? You know, when budgets get reduced, people get let go. And generally speaking, especially since other than taxes, it's not really coming out of, you know, the pocket. When we steal, we're sort of stealing from everyone at once, which means we're not stealing from any one person. You know, when we're spending 824 billion on the military, we all pay for it, but at the same sense, we're not even all paying for it right now. It would be one thing if we said, we got $1 trillion in the bank, we're going to spend 824 billion on the military. We don't. We say we have zero in the bank, we owe trillions of dollars, and we're going to spend 824 billion on the military. So, I'm all for a military, but for heaven's sakes, we have to, you know, our financial insecurity is a national security issue. That's, I think, one of those arguments where you try to take two things that are a win-win and put them together to try to make some positive change. Because if we have hyperinflation and we have trouble, you know, buying stuff and whatnot, it's not going to be good. BC, Australia, Canada, anywhere they can get their money out of China. But why do they want to get their money out of China, though? Is there not enough investment opportunity? Do they not have faith in the yuan? Do they think they're like undervalued and a big currency correction is coming? Do they think they're going to get taken over? I mean, that's the part that I don't get. China is in a third world country. China is has a lot of stuff going on. You could buy real estate in China. You could buy a factory. You could, you know, you can buy anything you want in China. That's what just really fascinates me, is they're putting all their money into this Western. Like, imagine if a bunch of Western people just started putting billions and billions into Asia. Well, Western billionaires do invest in Asia a lot, you know. So it's just such a, I don't know if they're trying to diversify their portfolio, or maybe they just want to travel, have an excuse to travel. You know, honey, let's go check on our property over in Seattle, you know, or whatever. But, you know, as a Californian, you know, if I had $1 million to invest, I'd buy land on the West Coast somewhere, or, you know, maybe in Nevada or Arizona or Wyoming or Utah or something. I don't know, but I'm probably not going to go. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to like have an island or, if I could spend $100,000 and buy an island in the Philippines, maybe I would. But it just fascinates me that like you could be a billionaire in Hong Kong and then come to San Diego and say, I want 10 houses. Like, why don't you just buy 10? Why don't you just buy a giant ass apartment complex in China? War. China's worried about war? Yeah, maybe. But, you know, anyone who's going to go to war with China is going to, you know, Black Sea, like through Russia, Black Sea? How are they going to get to the Black Sea? They got to go through somebody to get to the Black Sea. You got to go through a couple people to get to the Black Sea. I wonder, am I going to fight? Am I going to fight what war? Am I going to fight in war? I don't know. Well, I'm not a soldier. I mean, I'll defend myself and my property to the extent that it's legal, but I'm not planning on fighting any wars. I'm already battling for a college degree. That's enough of a battle already. You know, I'm also, yeah, that's the war I'm fighting right now. Can I successfully get a college degree? And believe me, it's almost there. Almost there. It's been fun looking at the clock now. So I think I'm going to wrap it up, but so we talked a little bit about Saudi Arabia today, about the missile that Yemen launched over there, talked about Lebanon, the recent change of power, and the prime minister, talked about U.S. Sending money to countries like Lebanon, as well as selling arms to other countries. Talked about a few different things. You know, I could certainly do kind of a weekly or a regular daily feed. I just was kind of hitting on what the Secretary of State was saying. In fact, let me check if the Secretary of State is still alive. That would blow my mind if the Secretary of State was still alive. Or not the Secretary of State, their spokesperson anyways. No, I don't think they're live anymore. But anyways, thanks for watching. Government seizing assets. Oh man, not good. Not good. Yeah, thanks for the comments, guys. Lono, Gasmas, Acer. I think Diane signed out, but good talking to you guys. I'm not sure what a good time for a live thing would be. I guess I'd have to look at like other people's live feeds so I don't cross up, but good talking to you guys. I'll see you guys later, and thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe.